Wondering how to get your toddler to poop? Today, I am sharing all my best tips and tricks, including what did and did not work for us when troubleshooting toddler constipation. If you're new here, my name is Rachel from The Confused Mom. Welcome to my channel. I share baby and toddler product reviews as well as Montessori at home tips. And this video is part of a whole mini series on toilet learning, which is the Montessori approach to potty training. So be sure to go back, check out my past videos in this series, including must-have items, products and gimmicks I think are worth skipping, tips for successful potty training, and more. I'll leave a link to the full playlist in the description box below. And I'd also love to hear what things worked for you and your family in troubleshooting toddler constipation, so be sure to drop me some comments below and help some other families out too. Okay, so when it comes to toddler constipation, there are two things I want to address first, aside from the fact that I am just a mom, and be sure to always talk with your healthcare provider when it comes to toddler poop issues. So the first thing is going to be diet. I am a big proponent of starting with a child's diet first before introducing supplements, and so what that really ends up looking like is minimize processed foods and making sure they're getting enough fiber and fat-soluble vitamins daily. So those are your A, D, E, and K. On that same note of diet, consider avoiding foods that typically back people up and opting for foods that are properly prepared to help with digestion. And generally, pears, peas, and prunes are considered good for getting things moving, as well as dates are another really good food. Now, if your child's diet is good, the second thing to look at is whether or not they've had some sort of, for lack of a better word, traumatic experience. What my pediatrician told me is all it takes is one bad poop to scare toddlers out of wanting to poop again. And that can be something as small as straining while pooping, or a super hard stool. All of these little things that like you and I experience occasionally, but we can continue to poop regularly, can really scare toddlers and actually cause them to resist the urge to poop. So with that in mind, sometimes our kiddos just need a little extra support in getting things going regularly, comfortably, and easily. So I've kind of broken this into two sections. Number one is going to be like for mild issues, and then the second section is going to be like for more chronic or bigger type of issues. So the first thing is going to be prune juice. This was pretty much where we started. Prune juice is obviously like number one natural laxative out there. One of the little tips that we got from my daughter's preschool was to warm the prune juice up and give it in the morning. So we originally started off with regular prune juice per our pediatrician's recommendation. It worked great until it stopped, which can be a sign that there's a deeper issue going on, especially in combination with skin issues or sensitivities. That brings me to my next juice tip, which is adding in aloe juice. Aloe juice is also kind of a laxative, but it's a really good source of magnesium and potassium. So this is going to help you get a little bit more minerals. So even if your kid isn't drinking prune juice, I highly recommend adding aloe juice or coconut water to cut their regular juices with. And you can either add like cream of tartar or salt to just kind of make it more of like an electrolyte type of drink. Much better than like the name brand electrolytes too. The next one is what I like to call poop fudge. And basically what you're going to do is just mix some coconut oil with some peanut butter or nut butter or anything really. And you're just going to go ahead and mix it up so it's almost like a fudge-like consistency. You can even keep it in the fridge so it becomes more like a fudge-like consistency, and have your child eat like a spoonful of that a day. Aside from poop fudge, another one of our favorites are constipation candies. You can also add some chocolate chips, sprinkles. The salt makes it more of like an electrolyte thing, helps retain water in the colon so the poops are softer. You just eat a few of these every single day. Make sure that they get those fat-soluble vitamins, especially if your kid is not a fan of the poop fudge. Of course, teaching your child breathing techniques for on the pooper is another really great thing to reduce strain. So one of the things that my pelvic floor therapist taught was really to open up the pelvic floor, because remember in my past videos, I think common but not normal pregnancy and postpartum symptoms, I talk a lot about the pelvic floor. Open jaw equals open pelvic floor. And so one of the things you can teach them to do is make that like a snake sound, and that's gonna help get the pelvic floor into a better alignment to help release it. And then the more common one that I think most people have heard of before is smelling the roses in and blowing out the candles to get them to take those deep inhales and exhales. On that same note of breathing, we also have this little meditation mouse that takes her through some different breathing techniques, which we really like, which kind of doubles off of a different suggestion a lot of people use, which is have a specific set of toys that only come out when the child is sitting and waiting on the toilet. And this is just like a really great comfort toy for going to the bathroom or nighttime stuff. We love it. Another thing that used to always work for us in the early days of constipation were warm baths or even the warm pool. Helps relax all the muscles, more likely to get things out. As I was editing this, I remembered one more non-invasive little tip you can do. This is like an upgrade of the I love you massage. Have your toddler lay down and gently rub in a circular motion by the lower left abdomen. By starting there, you're going to clear the descending intestine into the colon, and this allows you to clear space at the bottom before pushing more poop into the exit, if you will. From there, you can go into the I love you massage, where you draw an I on the left side, starting at the top and going down to that corner you started in, and then you'll do an upside down L, so starting at the top right, moving to the top left, and then down. Then you will do the U, starting in the right lower hip area. You can do a little circular motion here too if you want, and then going up to the upper right and making a U under the rib cage, over to the top left, and bringing it back down. And doing that a few times will allow you to move things through the intestine, up the ascending and then down the descending. Thing I want to touch on, because it is typically such an entry point into this whole conversation about toddler poop, are going to be pre and probiotics. And this is something that we initially started her on. We saw good results. We chose something, a really high quality one, and it worked for us for about a month, and then it stopped working. So here's the thing. Like I said earlier, I do believe in starting with child's diet first. So if you can get those fermented foods in first and foremost, I would go with that above a pre or probiotic. The other thing that nobody really talks about in the pre and probiotic space for kids is that if you have a kiddo who struggles with any sort of sensitivity, eczema, histamine reactions, a lot of that type of stuff that tells us there's some sort of gut issue happening typically. Most of the child, infant, toddler probiotics actually have specific strains that can be extremely irritating to those kids with the gut issues, which not a lot of people talk about. So if you do start on a probiotic and don't see results, I would say quickly, I mean a month max, I would not continue it, because you could actually be doing more harm than good. Looking at working with a naturopath or other sort of doctors to find the right strains for your kid can be a more effective approach than just purchasing a highly rated one off of Google or something that a YouTube mom suggests, which is funny because I'm about to go give you all my supplement suggestions. But they're a little bit different than, like, you know, populating the gut with bacteria, into kind of like the slightly more invasive or heavy hitting approaches. First, semi-invasive approach, it's extremely gentle and it is safe for babies. The Windi, which is basically this little thing that you dip into like a coconut oil or something similar, and then you stick into the butthole and you do certain like kicks and moves. When my kids were under 1, I've used it with both of them. It's extremely effective. I've also used it when my daughter was a toddler, and it did help get that fart out, but it didn't really help with the constipation. So that is something that is, yes, a little bit invasive, but extremely gentle, and like she thought it was hilarious. Now for more daily use, I'm a big fan of Wellements constipation support. And essentially all this is a prune juice concentrate with a chicory root fiber. You can take this every day for like a month until things are going regularly. On that same note of a more regular type of supplement, I'm a big fan of Organic Olivia's Digestive Juice, and what you do with this is basically spray it in their mouth 10-15 minutes before they eat, and what it does is it helps get the stomach acids ready for improving digestion. You have a kiddo who maybe doesn't eat a ton of meat, doesn't eat a lot of fermented foods, really likes kind of like the toddler bland color palette diet. They probably have low stomach acid, and before jumping towards a digestive enzyme, I would probably start with Organic Olivia's Digestive Juice. And essentially it's just like herbs for bitters that are going to help get the digestive juices literally going to improve overall overall digestion. That's a really nice thing. Also, if your kid's a mouth breather, where they're not getting proper, like, I'm not really good with technical terms here, but if your kid's a mouth breather, chances are their saliva doesn't have the right acidity balance and they don't have enough saliva, which impacts their stomach acid, typically low stomach acid. So that's where that digestive juice comes back in. If they're not getting fermented foods, if they're a mouth breather, if they're not getting enough meats in their diet or raw dairy, that's going to be a really good tool to have in your toolkit. If you find that the Wellements constipation support is not working for you, the next tool I would suggest looking into is Bioray's NDF Pooper. Bioray is a very well-known kind of like, I don't know, crunchy mom type of supplement brand. The reason I recommend Wellements over Bioray's is that it just has less ingredients, and so I'm all about starting with less when treating kids. So it has fewer ingredients. The Bioray one is also only recommended for 7 to 10 days, and if you're using it for more than 10 days, they suggest adding their NDF Calm to balance it out. But if you are looking for maybe a step above, something more of a daily support than Wellements, that is a good option. On that kind of same note of good overall brands for kids, Genexa is sort of like the cleaner version of a lot of the different brands we would find in our typical medicine cabinet. So like they have cough and cold and flu support and all that type of stuff. So Genexa has a kid Senna laxative that's extremely gentle. It's not like the type of laxative you take and then you're in the bathroom right away. This is going to take between 6 to 12 hours for a bowel movement. You do need to get a poop going within the next day. It is a good option. And then if you're like in a real urgent situation, you're like, I need a poop in the next hour and I need to get it out of my kid. We're going on 2 weeks. I don't want to have to go to the hospital. The Pedialax Glycerin Suppository. It is invasive, kind of similar to the Windi, in that you are going to go ahead and stick this in your child's butt. This is already lubricated. You just go ahead, stick it in, you'll squeeze it. Only about half the liquid will probably end up in your child, and you will see a bowel movement generally within an hour. If you are like in a dire situation, that is it. Pedialax has a few other like kids constipation support products. I do not recommend those. They have some pretty questionable ingredients. And there you have it, my toddler constipation support tips. Let me know what has worked for your family in the comments below. Help some other families out. Like I mentioned before, this video is part of a whole mini series all about toilet learning and all of that good stuff. So definitely go back, check out those past videos. And until next time, my name is Rachel. Have a good one.